All right. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. He is a two-time Super Bowl champion and the head coach of Cranston East football. I welcome on today's special guest, Coach Centore. How are you today?
Good, thank you. I'm doing well.
That's good, Coach. How are you holding up during these times?
It's been different, but I think it's given me an opportunity to slow down a little bit. Not that so that's been a big plus. Probably taking care of myself a little more, and finding out, that some things aren't as important as other things. You don't have to wait for a game. There are other things you can do. So that's been an eye-opening 6 months for me in terms of that is concerned. So
that's
been
good.
Different.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's always a good time to try to learn new things or try to pick up something new or figure
out a lot of hobbies, fix things, take care of things, and just like I said, probably more take care of myself, doing things for myself. That as a coach and a teacher, a lot of times you spend time taking care of everybody else and not yourself.
Yeah,
it's okay. It's just sometimes you need to step back and take care of yourself.
That's true. Well, that makes coaches and teachers such great people because they care about so many other people and
Put them first, right?
Yeah, exactly. Put other people first before themselves. That what makes you guys about great and amazing people out there, and we really appreciate you guys as well.
Thank you.
Coach, before we get into talk about how you started at Cranston East and coaching there, I want to get into a little bit of a background. Coach, when did you start playing football, and was there a position that you really liked and that you were able to play growing up?
So my background, I don't know if I'm from a football family.
Yeah.
My father was a longtime Rhode Island high school football coach. My dad started coaching in 1946, right after graduating high school.
Wow.
So he coached from 1946 till he left. He sort of retired when he came with me when he was about 70. He stopped coaching when he was probably about 81, 82. Maybe even a little longer than that.
Wow, that's great.
But my dad was so he was a high school football coach at Cranston. He started in 46, and then he went to Cranston East as a teacher in 1957. And my dad was a football coach there for 15 years as a guy. Well, he was a guidance counselor and a history teacher like I am. I'm in guidance, so I'll tell you that story. But I actually replaced him. I've been teaching 32 years. I replaced my father 10 years ago in his position. When he retired,
wow.
I took over his job as the guidance counselor, one of the guidance counselors at Cranston East. But so he went to Johnston, and he was a football coach at Johnston from 73 to 2003, and he was the head coach from 79 to 03.
Wow.
And so I played for my father and starting in 1981. And I was a quarterback for him. I was a kicker. I was a punter. I did it all for 4 years. And, so I had an opportunity to play for him. And so I never played youth football. He never allowed me to.
Really?
He didn't think it was the best thing for me, but he allowed me to play basketball and other sports, baseball, but never allowed me to play football as a youth. He thought it was better that I develop my, ready. And he thought if you're a good enough athlete, you can play once you get to high school. So I did. I was able to play 8th grade and 9th grade, which was freshman football back then.
Yeah.
You could do that. But so I never really played, but I was a quarterback, and I played for him as a quarterback starting in the sophomore year, and it was tough. Him being, I played for my dad, so it was tough on me, but it was good.
Yeah.
And he did a lot. But then I went. So I was I played 3 sports in high school: football, basketball, and baseball, all 3 seasons. Unusual now to see that, but that was just the norm back in the 80s. 30-something years ago, 35 years ago, and it was the norm. And then I actually went to the University of Rhode Island and played there as well from 84 to 87.
Wow.
So I was on a couple of good teams my first 2 years. We had 2 very good football teams back then. And then I graduated from the University of Rhode Island in 1988 after that season. So I was fortunate to play there. And then I got into coaching. As soon as I finished, I grew up around football. I'd be on the field when I was 5 and 6 years old. So,
yeah.
But I tell everybody I started getting paid as a coach because I felt like I was a coach. Even the years I was young, I was still helping out as a coach. I knew, I just was in the business, like as far as film and teaching kids. And, I'd be a young kid, 11, 12, 13, talking to the players about the game of football. Like I knew more about the other teams than they did. I
Wow.
gave the scouting reports because I watched the film.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of experience doing that. And he, so when I retired, when I graduated in '88, I started coaching with my dad at Johnston. And so I was with him for 14 years. And then finally in 2003 is when I've been teaching in Cranston since 1988. It's my 32nd year teaching.
Wow. Wow. That's
So
great.
I was, so a long time. I mean, I started at 21, so I was young
Yeah. Yeah.
teaching. So right out of college, I got a job in Cranston. But in '03, I went to Cranston East, and my father was still the head coach at Johnston, but he retired from Johnston, and he came with me to be my assistant coach.
Wow. That's awesome.
So it was great. And he was still a guidance counselor in the building. I was not in the building. So he handled all the day-to-day operations until I got there in 2010.
Wow. That's crazy.
So yeah, it's quite a background of, coaching. So, but, I grew up around Cranston East football, probably, 5 and 6 years old, but I always then at Johnston after that. But my first experience with high school football was at Cranston East as a, 5 and 6 year old, so very young, but I remember being at the practices. So but that's sort of, what's that?
Is it, were you out there calling plays at 5?
I wasn't calling plays, but I was holding dummies, talking to them. But I was running when he was at Johnston. I was running scout team plays at 10 and 11.
Wow, that's crazy.
Oh yeah, I was a quarterback, the scout team quarterback, and oh yeah, very young. So
Wow.
That's my crazy football background in terms of, But I'm very fortunate that I got a chance to follow in my dad's footsteps. That he didn't retire from Cranston East as a teacher until he was 80 years old.
That's crazy.
So yeah, so he really enjoyed. He was there for 50. I don't even know. He started in the 50s, 57, and then he retired in 2010.
Wow. So you really left a legacy. And
very lucky to be. Yeah. So that's my football background in terms of everything. So we had some success at Johnston when we were there, and I had an opportunity to do a lot with him in terms of co-coaching with him in terms of really two of us together did a lot together.
That's amazing.
So really, very lucky.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool that you got to have that experience with your father and learn from him and grow with him. I mean, you sound like that coaching influence was on you since you were a young boy, and then it carried over to the college and everything.
And he's influenced a lot of and I think his background. There were in Rhode Island right now. There are 4 of us as head coaches that played for him.
Wow.
So Rhode Island, Dino at Shea Campopiano.
Yeah.
At Shea High School. David Cato, who's at West Warwick High School, and he's the head coach. And Joe Achado, who's at Johnston now. We all played for my father. So he's had a lot of assistant coaches throughout the state that played for him who've stayed in the game because of his influence. I've gone into education, so that's, it's something that, a lot of us do, but we're very fortunate, that we're able to play for him and then coach with them, some of us, so.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. That's a really cool, really, really, really cool story of like how you got into coaching and like having your dad as your.
I had no choice, but that was it. That was it. I was destined to be, and I enjoy it. It's just, I was destined to be, that's just what we do, it's without football in the fall, it's a little strange, like it's the first time in, I know, like I said, 32 years this year would be being a paid football coach, but in terms of like football, it's been since the early 70s.
Yeah, that's to be a weird feeling too of not being able to have that, not having football and getting into that like regular routine of just getting ready for it when that time comes.
It is. It's very different now. Like just with work, like as a routine in the fall is August practice. Getting ready in August and then getting ready for school and then work after school going on. But so the routine is now changed in terms of you have some normalcy after school in the fall, which is none of us are used to, football coaches, very different.
Yeah. I spoke to one football coach and he said over at Bryant, the head football coach at Bryant, he said the same thing. It's like the first time I think in like, he said 49 years of his life, they never really, or like,
probably a long time because he's a young guy. He's probably, he's probably in his 50s. You talk about Chris Merritt.
Yeah.
So he's probably, he's in his probably mid 50s, maybe something like that. A little bit, maybe. But he's been doing it his whole life too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing. I'm going, same number of years, and it's just very different now with everything that's going on. So. change your routine. Like Friday night, like I'd be ready to go to I'd be already at the school right now getting ready for a game tonight.
Yeah, exactly. It's
So.
we wouldn't be having this conversation if
We would not. Not now, no. Yeah, so I'll be different,
Yeah, so it's a big change of everything.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's gonna be tough. You said you eventually played at UR. Did you play with Coach Storer as well too?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, Coach Storer is a friend of mine. He played Steve. I graduated in 87. Steve graduated in 80. I'm sorry, I graduated in 88. He graduated in 86, I believe it was. And he played, he was on those teams that I played. So when I got there as a freshman, he was in his sophomore year.
Yep.
So he's a couple of years older than me. We played against each other in high school.
Yeah.
He was at Cranston West and I was at Johnston. Yes. So he was a good football player. Even at, in high school, he was very good. He was a tight end in high school. Then he moved to offensive line in college and he was very good.
Yeah.
Very good football player. And then we became, rival coaches. He was at West, I was at East. And we were playing against each other for the last 2 years. It was 15 years of competing against each other.
That's crazy. That's funny how small that world is. You guys end up
like a good friend, and he's a good person. He's a friend of mine. I consider him a good friend.
Yeah, he was a nice guy. He's also been on the show as well.
Yeah, too. I'm happy for him that he's back in coaching at Westerly.
That's awesome.
Very happy for him. Like he's gonna do well. That'll be a good spot for him.
Yeah. He was excited to take it, and I'm sure Wesley's lucky to have him. And
he's doing a good job. He's very, very passionate, very loyal, very, hardworking.
Yeah, he loves football. It's not like you guys just sound like you both just love football.
Yep.
Both football guys as well, right?
Yes, right. Football guys, yes. He's a phys ed teacher, football coach. I was an elementary teacher, guidance counselor, and then high school guidance counselor. So same pathway,
Exactly.
Yep.
That's awesome. What's it, when you take over a head coaching job, what's it like to start to create your own legacy? I mean, your father obviously is a legend and what I spoke of, and how many years he coached, and just, working with him. How do you kind of, build your own legacy away from him, or follow in his footsteps?
So when I got to Cranston East in 2003, I mean, Cranston, back history of it, Jeff, the Cranston football back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, mid 70s, late 70s was dominant football. Yeah. Like it was Cranston High School, then it became Cranston East because they split the two schools into East and West in the late 60s.
Oh, wow.
So there was only one high school. So Cranston High School was good, but Cranston East was very good in football. And then, they had a little bit of struggles in the 80s, but then they won a state championship in the late 80s. And they won a Super Bowl. They beat Rogers High School, who was way back then, way before your time. It was dominant. Rogers High School football was dominant. There was no Hendrick and LaSalle were not what they are now.
Really?
East Providence was good back then. Rogers, those types of schools were very good. Even Portsmouth was not. That's not what it was back then, And so, as far as like when I got there in 2003, they had struggled a little bit. The numbers were down a little bit, and there were a lot of reasons. I mean, I don't know what it was, but I just know when I arrived at Cranston East that my first thing was just to get the kids interested out onto the field because the numbers were a little down and kids maybe just didn't want to. I don't know the reason, but I think what you do is you got to find your own identity, and you got to just trust yourself that you get to get. I personally think that you need to get kids to believe in you and trust you. And the first thing I always told them was, I got to be able to trust you to play, but I said, you have to trust me that I'm going to do the right thing. And, I think my first goal was to get kids out and then go from there. So my first contact was with a lot of the older kids who were seniors who were going to be part of that team who really hadn't had a lot of success. And I reached out to them when I had a meeting. I went to school and the basics of a sign up like we all did in the cafeteria. And, we all know that story. The kids. And, I had a chance to meet them and talk to them. And they knew who my father was through the school, like they had known him. But I think it was important that I got to know them. So my first year, I think they had something like 28 to 30 kids the year before I got there. And our first year, we had a freshman team with about 25 kids. And we had a varsity team with close to 45 to 48 kids. Wow. So the numbers jumped, almost doubled in that one year. But the big thing was, the one thing I did not want to do is I wanted to do things my way and set up things my way in terms of how we run practice, what the expectations were. And the big thing is I didn't want to lose anybody. Yes. So my goal was to get the same number of kids and finish with the same number of kids, because I knew we'd probably struggle being the first year and get better. But we did. We kept that year, we probably started with, like I said, 45 to 50 varsity kids and 25 freshmen. And I think I lost maybe 1 or 2 kids at the most by the end of the season.
Wow, that's really
good. It was, and we were young. We started very few seniors because there weren't many. And our best senior, we had a senior quarterback who didn't play for a year because he was unhappy. He didn't like playing. I don't know what but I reached out to him personally. Yeah. I said, we need you to come back. He was a sophomore starter, didn't play as a junior. I went to meet him personally, and he said, I'll do it. And he stuck with us the whole year. And he really got us through that season.
Wow.
And our best player that year was our basketball kid who's played for me that year was a senior named Isaiah McDaniel, yep, who was the head basketball coach. But Isaiah has been on my coaching staff since 2000. And, he graduated in 2004. He's been on my staff since about 2006 or 2007.
Wow.
And we've become very good friends. He's like, he's a teaching assistant in our building. So him from that first team is now part of my coaching staff, and we've become very close friends. He's somebody that, he's my offensive coordinator. He's like my top, but I've seen him grow. He's now has a family with 3 little girls, and it's just, so it was a long process to get it going. And, that first year was tough because we struggled early. We really did. But the last 3 games we played really, really, really well. And I knew we had so many returners the next year, and it was just trust. And I told the kids, I have to trust you, and you have to trust me. And that's how I build our program on trust and believing that you're going to do the right thing when you're not with me.
That's great. I think that's a good mentality to have, a great, a great culture to bring into the program. Just that trust. Everyone trusts everyone, and
right.
You're going to be successful along the way.
That's what I thought was important to start a program, and I had to trust the coaches that they were going to be behind me, and not, I never wanted it to be that, I brought a couple of my own guys in, but then there were other people I brought on who I didn't really know. I knew of them, and I brought them on, and, I just had to explain to them. I said, listen, I just need to know that if something goes bad, we're all on the same page, that, if I make a bad call or somebody says something, you're backing us. We're all of us are together. And, those guys that were on that staff that first year had played at East. They had coached actually on the previous staff.
Oh, wow.
So it could have been a little bit of it could have been a little bit because, issues, but what ended up happening is those guys became very close friends of mine as well as we worked our way through. And, it's been a good, a good run in terms of coaches. I've been very lucky with my staff.
That's awesome. That's great. It sounds like your staff is, and I'm sure your past players and players now, it just sounds like become an extension of the family, right?
Yeah, that's the way we look at it. They all continue part of it. And those kids now are, this would be my 18th year, and I never really think of myself as old. I'm 53, and I don't feel myself that way. Like I feel like I'm okay. But those guys really are now in their 30s, 35, 36, having children, families. It's just very, very, very unique, and you never think you're going to get to that point. And Cranston East has not had a lot of football coaches in terms of like long-term. Stebbins, the original Ed Stebbins, who was the longtime coach at Cranston East, the field at Cranston Stadium. I'm sure you've been there. I don't know if you've been to the stadium, right?
Yeah, I played there.
So you played there, right? So the field's been named after him, the original. He was the longest coach. I don't know how long, but he was the longest active coach. And then his son took over for probably, I think he was the coach for maybe close to 15 to 20 years. And then other than that, like, it's pretty cool. Like, I'm going on 18, and I'm probably might be the second longest coach in school history that, so there's a lot of history and tradition that I certainly respect, that I want to make them proud,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It sounds like you really do respect the history and all the past and everything like that. It just sounds like you're very respectful like guy, and you like have a lot of like you care about other people, and it sounds like you don't talk bad about anything.
No.
That's great. You can just tell by the way you're talking. And,
Yeah, I do. I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. And I do it with the kids too. I mean, I'll get mad at them, but they know. I mean, I don't swear on the football field. Like it's a rarity that you even like people hear it if it ever comes out of my mouth that it's they can't believe they know I'm mad if I swear.
yeah, I was gonna say
But
it's like
it's a
no,
rare thing. Just doesn't. It's just not my style. My style is more. I might yell at them, but my style is more of a supportive. Yeah.
yeah.
And that's why the kids. I personally think a lot of times that's why the kids come back.
Yeah.
They know, they might not be happy with their playing time, or they might not get enough carry or whatever it is. But nobody's ever been, disrespectful because I think as a staff we try to treat them the right way.
That's a perfect way to do it. And I like the way you don't swear. That's awesome.
Yep.
You really don't.
I'm not saying I haven't, but
yeah, you
but
try not to. At least
people know when I do. If ever comes out of my mouth a swear word, they know that I'm really mad because in all the years, like I said, and my father was an old school Vince Lombardi, grab your face mask, that type for the 2 hours of practice. When it was over, he was the quietest person. Yeah, he never talked.
Really?
He never said a word. He was the most mellow individual you ever want to meet after the field practice was over.
Wow.
He didn't say much. He was calm. Even in the locker room after practice, after a bad practice, he'd go up to the kids and pat them on the back. And once the field was over, that was it. And in all the years he coached, I've never – and that's why I think it's the way I am, Jeff, a little bit. I've never sworn. My father never swore.
Really?
Never ever came out of his mouth.
Wow, that's crazy.
But the old school coaches, how they used to be, what you don't grab face masks today. You just don't do those things. Yeah. Back then they did in the 70s, the 650s.
Yeah, it was a lot. Yeah.
It was allowed, but it's different and you don't do that. But that's one thing that, you just don't need to be that way. You can be a tough coach, but you don't need to be crazy and chaotic.
Yeah. Yeah. So, oh yeah, definitely. I think coaching styles have changed over the years. I mean, just witnessed it, from when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I played in the early 2000s and had some crazy coaches. And then now going into the coaching, I coach basketball too. And then going into the coaching.
Where do you coach?
I was coaching at Wheeler High School.
Oh yeah.
In North Stone, in North Staunton, the small Connecticut school over there. So I was coaching basketball there. And it's funny, like with my old former basketball coach, it's funny, like his style has changed too. And
you were at Westerly, you said? Yeah,
he was at Wesley. Neil Cobley,
I know that name. Yeah.
So that was my.
You played for Coach Reed?
What's that?
Football? Did you play football for? Oh no.
No, I didn't play football. I played soccer. I had migraines. I didn't want to.
No, I don't blame you.
Yeah, it's stuff on the. Coach Reed. I had Coach Reed for gym, and he was really nice guy.
And Coach Samaggio, right?
Yep. Yeah, great
friend. Yep.
Great guys, but it's funny how the coaching style changes over the years, and
it does.
How you just have to be easy to talk a certain way and handle yourself a certain way.
You do. You have to do things differently today, but if you can't adjust, then it becomes a problem in coaching.
Yeah, definitely, big time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big issue, but and then so you won a couple Super Bowls and.
Yep.
Two division champs as well as what's that like? What was it feel to be a part of those teams?
Well, it's rewarding. We certainly, like I said, if I look back on history, when I got there in 2003, we were not very good, but we got better. And then in 2004, my second year we had started 2 freshmen in 2003, and we all sophomores and maybe 4 seniors that year. So the next year we ended up making the playoffs, and we were 1 play away from going to probably the Super Bowl that year as well.
Wow.
2004. Yeah, we got a bad call up at Cumberland. I'll never forget it. And coaches, you remember that? And
we
had a game we could have won 7-6, and we went for 2 to win it. We scored the touchdown, the 2-point play. Had a 6'4" wide receiver, and the official called it good. And the guy came running down from the other side, said he pushed him off, and he called it. We lost the game 7-6.
Oh.
We would have been playing probably in another Super Bowl in 2004, but that year we had a very good team. We actually, we didn't. But the following year in 2005, we ended up being division champs that year with Tolman. We lost to them during the season. We ended up beating them in the Super Bowl in a great football game. And that was the first Super Bowl victory at Cranston East in a long time, since 87. And then, 07, we won a division champ. We were co-champs there that year as well. And we got beat in the semifinals. And Division II now. We were down in Division II at that time. And then we were very successful. And now that forced us up to D1 starting in 2010. So everybody said Cranston East is back. And it was great to be in Division I. And our first, so we had our battles in D1. We ended up, so D2, we won those couple of titles, those regular season and the Super Bowl. But then in 2010, our first year in Division I, we started off 0-4.
Wow.
We lost our first 4 games. It was brand new to us.
Yeah.
We won our last 4. And we beat LaSalle pretty handily in 2010. That was a big win for us, our first really big Division I game. And then, so we were 500 there. 2011, we returned to a fairly young team. But then in 12, 13, and 14, we were a very good football team. We ended up making the playoffs all 3 years.
Yep.
In 2012, we ended up in 4th place, but a good team. It was us, LaSalle, Portsmouth, and Cranston East. We were the teams, and we lost to Hendricken in the playoffs in that was a 28-21.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Yep. And then in 2013, we had many returners coming back, a handful of them, and we ended up coming in 4th place that year again. And Barrington won the division, and we beat Barrington in the playoffs pretty handily, and we played in the Division I Super Bowl against Hendricken.
Oh, wow.
And we ended up getting beat 45-34. Great football game,
Yeah,
great game. And then 14, we went back to the playoffs again. In 14, we went back and we lost to LaSalle 21-14 in the semifinals. And we were probably one play away, an interception away from playing in another Super Bowl.
Wow.
But by going into Division I, we've had our battles with, so we had very good years. And so we were forced, we were one of the top teams. But we were the top public school for quite a while.
Yeah.
15, we very young. And 16, 17, what you're talking about, we won co-champions with LaSalle 2 years in a row.
Oh, wow.
They had their crossover game was Hendricken, and our only loss was to LaSalle.
Oh, wow.
Both years during the regular season, we only lost to LaSalle.
Wow.
And then that playoff year, 16, we lost to Hendricken again in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They beat us in a tight game. And then we lost to Portsmouth that year. They're a very good team. Then 17, we went to Hendricken. We lost to them, but that put us in the Division I Super Bowl as opposed to the state championship.
Yeah.
So they've been Hendricken and LaSalle have always been I think we've had some really good football teams. It's unfortunate. And they just are what they are, and we just had a tough time beating them,
Yeah.
It made it tough for us. And then 18, we were from playoffs, and last year we didn't win a game. Never happened in all my whole career. But we started 6 freshmen.
Oh, wow.
So it was this team coming back was going to be pretty good coming back.
That's right. I actually read an article about you saying that.
Yeah.
You're saying the 2020 squad was going to be
much better. Yeah. Like I said, we have a quarterback. Our quarterback, we have a kid that's transferring in who's going to be a sophomore. He's a very good quarterback. So that last year our quarterback was more of a running back, and good, smart kid, and he did it because we asked him to. And but so we've been through the cycle. But being in, people forget. Sometimes we were in D1, and people didn't have to face the teams we had to play, and sometimes you get a false sense of I'm really good. But when you go and play up there, and they've changed Division I since we've been in it. When we first got in there from 2010 to 2014, you played Hendricken and LaSalle.
Yeah.
You played everybody. 9 games, and that's who you played. Now it's been watered down a little bit where there's 2 divisions of 7, and you only have to play one of the schools. So some people don't have a taste of what Division I football was like the real way.
Yeah.
And, it is what it is right now, and I think there's probably, and it was tough for us last year, even with the split group that we were tough, but it happens in high school, You coach and you played, and cycles happen, and right now we're in a little bit of a down cycle, and I think we'll be when we ever have football, Jeff, I think we'll be 100% better this year than we were a year ago.
That's awesome. Is there like a style play, and you had mentioned that like you switched the style. Is there a style play that you would like you kind of stick with, or is there just go with the pod that you have?
So I think personally we're not big enough to come go toe-to-toe with some of the big schools,
Mm.
like Hendrick and LaSalle, teams that you need to beat. So we try to spread the offense out. I'd love to have a quarterback. And, 12, 13, and 14, 12 and 13, especially my quarterback threw for over 5,000 yards.
Wow.
16 and 17, my quarterback, Justin Neri, who's at URI right now. Alex Corvesi was the quarterback in 12 and 13, broke all the records at Curry College, was the Golden Helmet Player of the Year in Division III football.
Wow.
Justin Neri, who was our quarterback in 16 and 17, broke Alex's touchdown passing record. He threw for 30, 30-something touchdowns in 1 year.
Wow, that's crazy.
So we had a lot. We were a spread football team.
Yeah.
And that would be ideal because we can't go – it's hard for us to go toe-to-toe because of the size of our kids. We don't always have big kids.
Yeah.
So
yes.
we have to try to utilize some of our athleticism that we have and and if a quarterback can throw the football, I think you have a chance to win football games in the Division I level. I think in other levels, you can run the football. I just think there's a major difference when you have to go up against those schools. And the reason we almost beat Hendrick in 13 and the reason we competed with them in 16 and 17 is because we could throw the football quite a bit.
Yeah. It's tough to play against those teams that, they recruit. And
they bring anybody in. They bring a lot of kids in, and then their next guy is as good as the guy that left.
Yes,
it's a challenge, and we lose one guy. And I know I'm going back 8 years ago in 2012 when we lost the playoff game. My best player, my running back, my strong safety, my defensive end, my starting guard, all got hurt in the first half. We were ahead at halftime, 21-14.
Oh my God, that's
really we lost them right before. We lost both of them right before halftime.
Wow.
And I couldn't. We did the best we could, but that kid. You know how it is. That kid was just – those two kids were so good. I couldn't move. I couldn't get another kid that could do what they do.
Yeah, exactly. You have athletic kids.
It's not the same. I didn't have a replacement. So that's the challenge when you play the depth. And my kids were all on the kickoff team, punt team. You were on everything. So
that's awesome. That's great. And like you said, it's tough to compete, but you guys are doing it. It seems like in a good chunk of every year, and those cycles coming in and out. What's your outlook for the upcoming season?
Well, if we have a season, which I hope, I certainly think we'll be a much better football team. I think we have like I said, 6 freshmen started last year.
That's
and, 2 of them were offensive linemen. One was a running back. One was our starting cornerback. And one was our middle linebacker. And he's a running back, linebacker. So I think we have the makings of a much more competitive football team. And I think if the quarterback that's transferring in will do well, and I think I've worked with him this summer. He came through our practices. If he comes through and does what he needs to do, that will change the game because he's a big-time quarterback. He's a sophomore who can – and he'll get us back to what we're comfortable with in terms of game, and that's what we need. We need a kid that can throw the football, and I think we can be much more competitive. Defensively, we return everybody except for 2 kids.
Wow. That's
so,
great.
And then offensively, we get a quarterback in that. And now our quarterback was a very good runner, who's fast, can now move to another position on the offensive side of the ball.
That's awesome. That'd be great.
That's our hope. I mean, if we have one, like I said, unfortunately, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm praying that we have some sort of season to at least showcase these kids, even if it's a non-playoff play, non-championship play, which I think may be one of the things they're discussing, just games.
Yeah, just to get out there and play.
Just to play, yeah.
And what's that situation like with? I know it's stuff up in the air, but have you guys been like? Has the RILL have been in touch with you at all? Or
our athletic director is the communicator.
Yeah.
And, they have not told. The only thing we know as of now is that it's going to be a fall 2 season in February.
Wow.
From February 22nd to April 25th, and with the lovely weather we have in Rhode Island, I cannot wait to go out onto the field at 22 degrees in the afternoon on February 23rd.
I was going to say,
especially down in Westerly, those poor kids go out on that. We have turf. At least we'll have a stadium but I think people are going to have trouble getting on a field in terms of practicing because it's going to be fields are not going to be ready in February.
No, it's going to be like cement, pretty much.
It is, and then it's going to muddy, and then it's going to be a slippery situation, and then when it gets cold, it's going to be a problem for, and it's going to be a difficult situation, and especially if we have a bad winter, we know how baseball becomes in March 15th when they try to start. There's no baseball they don't get on the field till April.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So,
it's gonna be interesting how it all plays out for you guys.
yeah, and as far as games, I think it's going to be regional games where you're going to play a pot of peak teams within the region. So, for example, we might end up playing West, Hendricken, the Warwick schools, Coventry, our general pod.
Yeah,
that's what I've heard they've been talking about.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough situation, and it's just like it's weird. It's really weird to have high school football in February of all time.
Right, you're right. Look at the colleges too. University of Rhode Island, all these their conference spring football. They're gonna play all spring, but they can play, March, April, and May. Before they get out in school, they can play a 8-game schedule, and it'll be different from they'll be out in the cold too.
Yeah.
So.
It's tough. It's really tough. It's such a weird thing, and hopefully we get back to some kind of normalcy by next year.
I
hope. But it's a little tough. It's funny. I had this conversation with someone. It's weird how a mask is just really becoming like just a part of our life that we just have to wear everywhere.
Absolutely. And they were talking about even playing with masks today. I heard today that high school soccer maybe have to wear masks when they're on the field.
Really?
That's what I heard.
That's gonna.
The sport. I think to try to breathe with a mask playing soccer, they told them they could have a break if they're not near the play field, the ball. They could maybe take their mask off if they're, if you're the defender and the ball's up, you can take your mask off behind you.
Yeah.
Off the balls, the goalie obviously can, but supposedly the mask have to be on. They're talking about it.
Wow. That's huge. It's tough to breathe in those things, and no matter what you do, even if you run, you have a short pace.
Somebody had a good point. Like you put a mask on and you hold a match about 6 inches away and try to blow out the mask. Try to blow out the candle.
Yeah, that's true.
You'll never be able to breathe to get it done. But it's true, and that's absolutely going to be a problem. But so there are all these situations and protocols that are going to be put in place in terms of temperature check. COVID, you could have a game on a Thursday and somebody becomes positive and your whole team gets quarantined, games out on Friday night.
Yeah, exactly.
Transportation.
Yeah.
No busing. Weekend games. Maybe no JV or freshmen. There could be issues with that.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a tough situation, but I hope for your sake, Coach, that you guys are able to take the field eventually, and I'll definitely have to come up and catch a game for a while in the stands, and
we'll be there.
Cheer you guys on, and I have one last question, and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite professional team, and what are your thoughts on them?
Oh, football-wise?
Yeah, football-wise.
Huge Patriots fan.
Huge Patriots fan?
But, I don't eat, sleep, and drink it like everybody else does, but I love watching the Patriots. And, I've watched them since I've grown up, way back to Sam Cunningham, who was the quarterback, Steve Grogan, who was their quarterback. You may have seen videotape highlight of him. He actually owns a store in Mansfield, Grogan Marciano.
Really?
So that's his. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but that's but yeah, so a big Patriots fan. I'm a big sports fan, but football-wise, certainly I enjoy watching the Patriots on Sunday, and that's my football team.
Yeah, it's a football team. What do you think about Cam Newton being the quarterback?
I think he's going to be different. I think as long as he stays healthy, he adds a dimension that's difficult to defend.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, and I think that's going to create if he's healthy, he's going to create a different dimension than they've ever had.
Yeah, I think Belichick wanted a guy like that.
Yeah, I think it's a challenge as an offensive coach when you have a guy like that see what he can do. And not saying he's not even close to Tom Brady, but he's going to be a different dimension.
Yeah, be a big help for them for sure.
Be fun to watch, I think.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. All right, one last question.
Sure.
I apologize. What's the one thing that you like to do outside of football that you enjoy, or one thing around Rhode Island maybe that you like?
Oh, I certainly during this time I do enjoy my own, like to walk, exercise, do that. That's really for me mentally to get out and do that.
Yeah.
I occasionally like to get out and golf.
Oh, there you go.
To do that. So that's an occasion. I like to do that if I can. And, those types of things, so, but, nothing out of the ordinary about taking care of walking and, golfing if I can do that. And, watching, game shows and different things that I enjoy. So
that's great.
Nothing too crazy, So.
That's really good. Nothing. Golf doesn't have too much stress, right?
No, not at all. No, definitely have a bad shot and you think it should be there, then you go a little bit. But
Yeah,
it's why I do it more for relaxation. It's not my life and death thing.
that's great. That's awesome, Coach. Well, thank you so much, Coach, for
Yeah.
your time. I really appreciate it. This has been awesome. Always welcome back on. Always,
Okay.
you always recurring guest.
Anytime.
Anytime you want to come back on, I would appreciate it. And thank you so much for making time out of your day for me and the listeners.
You're welcome. Thanks, Jeff.
All right, Coach. Take it easy. Have a good one.
You too. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.